All right.
Okay.
We should be live, but it's going to take a second for it to catch up.
Let me know when I should throw on the stream inside too.
I'll go ahead and do that right now.
Perfect.
There we go. All right. So let me go ahead and update the thread.
Okay.
Or I guess post that we're live. Then I need to tweet.
Hockey.
All right. So here we are. We're good. In the news thread. The day was an eventful day, wasn't it? I'm your usual host here, Iggy, and we have a guest host today as well.
Hi, what's up? I'm Simone. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, should be a good time. I think I'll go ahead and post in, what is it, the E11 thread?
Yes, the E11 thread.
The YouTube thread. Yeah. So yeah, our plan for today is to get to News Anon's thread over here in a minute. But first we're going to recap the Derek Chauvin trial. Derek Chauvin is the police officer from the Minneapolis Police Department who kneeled on George Floyd's neck until he died. So, oh hey, we got a YouTube viewer. Nice.
Damn. Look at that. Oh, darn. Look at that.
You can say damn on Twitch, I'm pretty sure. The stream is marked as mature audiences because we're dealing with, you know, pretty heavy stuff with some of this news.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure swearing's fine. They just are sensitive to like slurs and stuff.
Nice. Well, I don't really do that.
Yeah. Me neither. All right. Where was I? Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and post on that thread to let people know. You said you had something for the trial though. We're gonna get into that, and that's gonna take us a little while because there's been a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. We can start either with the summary or I can say a little bit. It's kind of just it's a bit of a summation of what we've been seeing.
That sounds good. Start with a hook, you know.
Sure.
Did you have something?
Oh yeah. Oh, should I start now?
Yeah. While I'm posting in the thread to let people know we're on. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So, in terms of the trial, there's really no other way to describe the past 3 days than as some kind of sensory overload. Even if, you know, you might have seen snuff films, there's clearly a uniqueness to the death that we have seen again and again and again and again. Over the course of a little over 9 minutes, you will see a man begin to be put in a blood choke, insisting and trying to clarify to those subjecting him to it that it is something that must end. You will hear him say goodbye to his mother, and you will hear him appeal to a deeply confused crowd of witnesses. It's now been seen from several angles: body cams, witnesses' phones, and evidently some legacy cameras, which are these kind of strange cameras put at several points to watch you, controlled from a distance. Again and again, you'll see this crazy shimmy that Derek Chauvin does as he digs his knee further and further into George Floyd. And you will also see as a group of witnesses comes together to bear witness to one of the grossest injustices that one can ever see that was brazenly continued as they approached. We've heard accounts from these witnesses ranging from minors as young as 9 and miraculously from first responders and from MMA experts who even at the time made it clear that this was something off that Chauvin was doing, that this was something deadly, that he was thinking about this in a way that almost derived pleasure. And there's a strange contradiction, because on one hand, you're bearing witness to this kind of horrible tragedy. It creates this great uncertainty. But remarkably, when we've seen these witnesses, something that is clear is that the people who saw this are some of the most remarkable people you'll ever come across. Yeah, that was sort of what I said.
It's a very accurate and artfully succinct summary. It's been a lot. It's been a lot watching this over the last 3 days. And I've been watching it since jury selection very consistently. It is a terrifying and traumatizing incident. All right, well, somebody is upset about this in the chat. I guess maybe it's somebody from Poll. Whatever. I'll just leave it until something gets too problematic for Twitch. Yeah, so here's the thing. This keeps going on with trying to sort of make excuses for what's happening here. And there's this weird kind of narrative that, like, there's justification for what happened. But, the cameras make it very clear, especially when you see it from multiple angles, that the police were completely in control of the situation the entire time. And they did exactly what they wanted to do. The only possible explanation for the police not having everything completely under control is that they were just so uncoordinated that they were trying to do different things and unable to cooperate with each other. Yeah. I don't want to dwell too long on the horror of what's going on here. Yeah, so this is going to go on for a while. They're expecting 4 weeks. We're 3 days into the actual trial proceedings. It took a few weeks to get all of the jury assembled. We'll see how it goes. It's hard to say. Currently, they're in the phase where they're entering evidence, including witnesses and video. So, we haven't gotten to things like medical reports or anything like that yet. But we'll see. We've had some pretty wild testimonies so far. I think that there is. Yeah, I'll pull up the summary over here so we can go through it. Yeah, so this is day 16 total, day 15 total, day 3 of the trial. So from today, witness number 8 returned, but was only questioned for a few minutes before being dismissed. She was the firefighter from the Minneapolis Fire Department who happened to be on the scene at the time. Wasn't called or anything, just was a bystander. And she testified, as Simone was referencing, that Floyd needed medical attention and wasn't getting it. And in the videos that we're seeing today, which was mostly body cam footage from the police officers, she could be seen telling the police officers that he needed medical attention, which he did not get, even after the emergency medical services arrived on the scene and took him away. He never got medical attention that we could see. She got into a bit of a spat with the judge the previous day, where the judge was telling her to finish and move on as she was being asked questions, but she argued that she was trying to give complete answers, and the judge was sort of, he was taking the stance that she was done giving her answers when he said so. So it got pretty combative, but ultimately she was brought back the next day to finish up. Not so for witness number 3, who was dismissed as he was trying to give explanations of what he was seeing. He was a semi-pro mixed martial artist who was trying to explain to the jury the nature of chokeholds, and specifically the difference between air chokes and blood chokes. Air chokes being a restriction of the respiratory system so that you can't breathe air. Blood chokes being a restriction of your circulatory system, cutting off blood to the brain. But between him and the firefighter, witness 8, the jury has had a fairly a sufficient explanation of what happened to George Floyd from like a medical standpoint without any medical expert witnesses being called. And it's worth emphasizing here, this only happened by coincidence because the 3rd and 8th witnesses, the MMA fighter and the firefighter, were only on the scene as bystanders, coincidentally. So if the chips had fallen a different way, the jury just wouldn't have that information. Might have a different version from the medical witnesses they bring on later to give expert testimony, but what they got so far is just by chance, which is kind of the general theme of this whole thing. It was by chance that this happened in public like it did, with the number of witnesses who were there. Although you could also say that this is a product of the police being willing to do this in public in broad daylight on a street in the shopping district, or an area that's zoned for shopping, shall we say. So yeah, a lot of luck that happened to bring us the information that we got.
And a lot of luck that the judges tried to repress.
Yes, and the judge was very combative toward both of these witnesses, these accidental expert witnesses, you could say. And then we had a little bit of bad luck, in air quotes, where Derek Chauvin's body cam was off for a bit, although it came back on later, and some other things were seen, but there wasn't much that could be gleaned from that. The other body cams the officers were wearing showed plenty, though, and from all the different angles that we got, it was clear that they were, basically what they did was they arrested Floyd, put him in cuffs, they sat him down, stood him up, moved him around a few times, put him in the back of the car, tried to get him in. He was claustrophobic and asked for a moment to, count himself in so that he'd be comfortable getting in the car. At which point they started shoving him in. Officers went around to the other side of the car and tried to help get him in by pulling him from the other side. And then they just pulled him through the back of the car, put him on the ground, and that's when they started to kneel on him. I would say Officer Lane's camera was particularly notable insofar as it gave a lot of visual information about the details about how they grabbed him or choked him at various points. Officer Tao's largely showed the reactions of the bystanders, as he was the officer who was standing between them and Floyd and the other police.
Could I say something real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead, anytime.
So it seems as if the defense has been trying to do two things, right? Mm-hmm. It seems as if they have been trying to change this from the Derek Chauvin trial into the George Floyd trial. And the second element is it seems as if they are trying to frame the group of people as a naive, angry mob that was not in their senses. And yet we have all of this footage, right, at this point of them doing nothing but recording and expressing the truth of the situation, which was horror.
Yeah. I don't know what the defense is. I guess at this point they're going to go with the idea that Floyd died of a drug overdose, but that's kind of hard to pull when you've had, not only have you had a couple of witnesses who were there explain in a medical kind of way how what happened to him caused his death. The video footage that they have to show in court has both of those people, the firefighter and the MMA guy, both of them in the videos, in most of the videos, can be heard explaining how endangered Floyd's life is. So it's a difficult prospect for the defense to argue that it's something else. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to keep going down the list here. The ninth witness that we had was a former employee of Cup Foods, which was where the incident happened. Cup Foods is the name of the store outside of which the arrest was made. After Floyd went in and tried to pay for something with a counterfeit bill, which it turns out actually came from an acquaintance he was with who gave him the bill to go pay for stuff inside the store. So it wasn't even Floyd's bill that he was arrested for in the first place. Yeah, and that is the reason he wasn't aware of what he was being arrested for. And additionally, the ninth witness was the one that we found this out. Oh no, it's the same witness. They were the one who sort of caused things to happen because they were, I think actually it was somebody else working there who called the police, but they notified the manager of the fake bill because of company policy, where if they didn't do that, they would have the money deducted from their paycheck and have, I don't think this is listed. No, it's not listed in the summary. He would have had his portrait put up as somebody who allowed like a counterfeit bill among like I think other infractions that could cause this. He mentioned that they would put up people's photos to shame them if they broke policy like that. So he didn't have any way of expecting what was going to happen. All he did was report a counterfeit bill to the manager. And from there, it escalated to calling the police. So that's what all this started from. Although there is some reason to believe that Floyd and Chauvin might have had interactions before, and Chauvin might have had a grudge or something. I think there's a point where Floyd seems to recognize him on his body camera. Yeah. And on the stand, the ninth witness said that he would have rather just paid the $20, but, you know, he had to follow store policy or potentially face sanction.
I mean, there's also just sort of the sense of, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be troubled by my boss.
Yeah.
Over $20.
Yeah.
And based on the way that Witness 9 was describing his boss seemed like the kind of fucking guy to, like, you know, really give him trouble over it.
Yeah, yeah. And also just I want to point out the disproportionality here. You know, it was a counterfeit $20 bill that started all this. Very, very minor offense. And again, Floyd wasn't even aware at the time. They had to tell him that it was a counterfeit. Yeah, so 10th witness was, the elderly man with the wizard beard. An elderly black man who I think was from the area. I'm not entirely sure. He recorded the cops' first contact with Floyd when Lane pulled a gun on him as he was approaching Floyd's car. And we later saw the footage from Lane's perspective, where he suspected that Floyd was this guy that he was called in for with the counterfeit 20. Officer Lane walked up to the side of his car, gun drawn, held sideways, pointed at the window, and they had an interaction there of, various instructions to put your hands up, put them on the wheel, put them on your head, etc. And that was where the encounter with the police began. This witness also remained to view the entire incident, made sure that he got a very close view. Oh no, that's the next one. The witness 11 was the one who made sure that he stayed and saw everything. I was getting them mixed up because there's a bunch of witnesses here. Yeah, he had witness 11 had a difficult time, and they had to break so he could collect himself emotionally, because he saw the whole thing. And apparently there were also jury members who were crying as he was giving his testimony.
Just like him.
Yeah, and even Dan from Unicorn Riot, whose stream we were watching, was also in tears. A lot of us in the SciTube chat were having a hard time with it too. It was really rough by that point, and I don't think we'd even started to see the police officer body cams yet.
We have, didn't we see those first three, right? We saw
I thought that
Lane,
we'd only
King, and Tao, right?
Maybe. It's kind of a blur, honestly. I thought that we saw the cams after we saw the eyewitnesses. They did play some video overlaid though, so I think you're right, some of it was mixed in. Anyway, the 11th witness actually met Derek Chauvin days before the event. He had made a comment to the effect that Chauvin gets to go home safely to his family, and that he should make sure that the people that he deals with as a police officer get to do the same. For the most part, the people who were witnesses here didn't know any of the police officers or George Floyd prior to the incidents, so this is an exception. And then after George died, the 11th witness again met Chauvin before he left the scene, confronted him, called him a maggot, and reminded him that he gets to go home to his family and George doesn't. After that, there was a long break. I think that was the lunch break. And then they brought the 12th witness, basically the head of IT for the police department. And he gave context for the body cameras and sort of how they work so that the jury understood that. And explained things like it takes a few seconds for the audio to start after the video does. Yeah. This is where we watched all 4 of the body cams that they had. Yeah. Lane's showed the most details, from when he first encounters Floyd and pulls him out of his car to when they're kneeling on him. Officer King was another officer who was on George Floyd at the end, who was holding his feet. Or no, he was, Lane was the one on his feet. King was the one in the middle. He didn't really show much, but this officer actually allowed Floyd to sit down and get a breath earlier on in the interaction before they started moving into the car. And Officer Tao was the one who was standing between Floyd and the officers and the bystanders, and his body cam didn't show too much, but it showed Chauvin was already choking Floyd as they were dragging him out of the car and through the car. It showed the interaction of the bystanders. It also showed him grabbing what looked like a baton out of the trunk as they were kneeling on Floyd.
Yep.
And Officer Chauvin's cam was turned off for 30 seconds while in the car before getting to the crime scene. And then once he engaged George Floyd in the back of the vehicle and they dragged him through, his camera fell off and turned off.
Conveniently.
Yeah. And then Nelson, the main, I think he's the only actual lawyer. He's got other people on his team, but the defense lawyer had trouble with opening up video files, and he had some embarrassing tech moments where the whole trial has had those where technology just fails, and it's kind of absurd that they didn't prepare better. And then Friday morning, there will be more motions, or maybe that's Thursday because today's Wednesday, right? Today is Wednesday, right? I'm not crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. There'll be more
Indeed
motions in the morning for more video evidence. And after we saw all of the body cam footage, it sounded like the prosecution was calling to enter even more body camera footage. But it's possible that they were only referring to what they'd already shown, which would be weird because the jury saw it. But anyway, so that's day 3 of the actual trial proceedings. So
I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
yeah,
I'm fucking wiped.
me too.
Honestly, it seems like there's fairly low engagement right now.
Yeah,
I think both of us might need some rest.
I'll keep going and
You'll
read
keep
a
at it?
couple of
Okay.
articles, but it's cool if you want to dip.
Cool. Respect. I'll keep at it. Maybe I will pull out of watching a little earlier and give myself some time to come down. Yeah, it's just been a lot, but yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on. Sorry, I can't stay on a bit longer.
Yeah, sure. If you want to come back, you just call. I've got the element.
Sounds good. Yeah, and maybe I'll come back in a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you, Simone. Yeah, so long day. Just to review really fast. Today they showed, I think, a little bit of additional CCTV footage, and we saw body cam footage from 4 police officers. 3 of those officers' body cams showed pretty much the entire incident with George Floyd, so we watched that through several times during the trial proceedings. The jury saw that stuff too. And seeing it over and over again from all those angles, that's just a lot. I mean, seeing it once is a lot, but yeah. So I might be a little bit out of it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep reading the news today. I'm not completely wiped like I was yesterday. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, what's the side tube chat got? If that doesn't get Chauvin, nothing will. Honestly, there was easily enough evidence to get him on first-degree murder, but that's not on the table. I think that's by Supreme Court ruling. What's on the table is murder and manslaughter. He could get convicted, I think, both of murder and manslaughter. Murder is on the table for second or third degree. First degree murder would be premeditated murder. He made a plan and then went through with it. Second degree is malicious murder, and third degree is by basically negligence. Easily enough evidence for second degree. There's enough evidence for first degree, honestly, but he's not charged with that. And then I guess, manslaughter would add time to the sentence. But yeah, if the jury acquits, I don't know what happened. They must have got like some ideological juror or something, and they went through over 100 juror candidates to get the jury they got. So, yeah. All right, let's move on from that. Let's move on to the actual news thread and see what we've got today. If anybody wants me to read a particular story, I can open it up in a new tab, and then we can go read it either then or once I get through the list a little bit more. So, today is Wednesday, March 31st, end of the first quarter of the year. What do we got? Brazil on edge as 3 military chiefs resign after Bolsonaro fires defense minister. The commanders of the Brazilian Army, Navy, and Air Force, General Edson Leal Pujol, Admiral Ilques Barbosa, and Lieutenant Brigadier Antonio Carlos Bermudez, met with the president's new minister on Tuesday morning and reportedly tendered their resignations during a dramatic and heated encounter. So Brazil's government's not looking too stable right now. Venezuela to maintain operations in border zones with Colombia. In recent days, Venezuelan authorities have denounced several aggressions committed by these groups against the civilian population in border zones such as the state of Apure. In Colombia, however, President Ivan Duque's administration does not combat these irregular armed groups. On the contrary, they're being used as a beachhead to escalate conflicts against the Bolivarian nation. Venezuela, that is. Yeah. Sounds like some more proxy wars going on. Myanmar coup, Kevin Rudd joins calls for UN Security Council intervention. Rudd raised the alarm as he called for an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council, arguing the international community had a responsibility to protect the people of Myanmar from mass atrocities by the country's military. So that's continuing, and we're getting UN calls for intervention. This is an interesting one. Oil sabotaging communist movement. 11 influential leaders in the CPN-UML faction, led by Madhav Kumar, Nepal, and Jalanath Kunal, today issued a joint statement accusing party chair and Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli. Oh, it's Oli sabotaging communist movement. Okay, so they're fighting back after what happened yesterday, or the day before. Yeah. Accusing Chair and Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli of attempting to split the party and conspiring to sabotage the communist movement in the country. Yeah. It's Nepal. Same thing that the Prime Minister accused them of earlier. So, from the Himalayan. Kathmandu, March 30th. 11 influential leaders of the CPN-UML faction, led by Madhav Kumar, Nepal, and Jalanath Kunal, today issued a joint statement accusing party chair and Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli of attempting to split the party and conspiring to sabotage the communist movement in the country. All right. They said Oli was taking arbitrary and autocratic steps to fulfill his interests. They had urged Oli to revive party bodies and structures that existed before the UML's merger with the CPN Maoist Center and to collaborate with communist forces, but Oli rejected their proposal. UML leaders of the Nepal Kunal faction said Oli acted against the party's statute when he inducted 23 former Maoist members in the party's Central Committee and formed the 10th General Convention Committee. They allege that after Oli became the prime minister, he continuously harmed the interests of the people and the country and acted against the country's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. They said Oli sought clarification from the Paul Rawal, Ganashyam Busal, and Surendra Pandey to intensify intra-party feud. That's a conflict within the party, intra-party. Those who issued the statement are Nepal Kanal, Yubarej Gyawali, Asta Laxmi Shaikia, Bhim Rawal, Ganashyam Busal, Bhim Acharya, Gokarna Vista, Yogesh Bhattarai, Mukunda Nupane, and Surendra Pandey. Yubaraj Gyawali told media persons that Oli's next move would determine the fate of the party. He said the Nepal Kanal faction could get space for fighting within the party only if party committees and structures that existed before the CPN-UML's merger with the CPN-MC were revived. He said recent political development proved that Oli had unified the UML with the CPN-MC just to become the prime minister. I mean, that's usually how coalitions work. In response to a journalist's query, Gyawali said Oli's recent decisions and actions were against the party's statute adopted by the UML's 9th General Convention. Yeah. Those old Nepalese communists are at it again, continuing to have their factional divides. We just had a story on that, so I wanted to follow up on it. What's next? Communist Party of Mexico blasts police repression over the murder of Salvadoran migrant in Quintana Roo. The death of 36-year-old Victoria Esperanza Salazar, a Salvadoran migrant who died in Tulum, Mexico, after a policewoman put her knee on her back for several minutes. Continues to evoke outrage after additional details of her life and how she died surfaced. I kind of feel like we got to read this one. Too many, it's just a little too similar. That's still loading though. Japan opposition submits no confidence vote against minister over scandal. Along with CDPJ, the motion of no confidence was submitted by the Japanese Communist Party, the Democratic Party for the People, and the Social Democratic Party. The move ratcheted up tensions between the ruling opposition parties ahead of a lower house by-election in Hokkaido, as well as another by-election in Nagano Prefecture, and a rerun election in Hiroshima Prefecture for seats in the House of Councilors. So, some internal stuff with Japan there. Booting out some... Did they say who it was? I don't see a name. Alright. So this is Mexico. Communist Party of Mexico blasts police repression over the murder of Salvadoran migrant in Quintana Roo. Or is it Roo? Not sure how they do double O in Spanish. The death of 36-year-old Victoria Esperanza Salazar, a Salvadoran migrant who died in Tulum, Mexico, after a policewoman put her knee on her back for several minutes, continues to evoke outrage after additional details of her life and how she died surfaced. In a statement, the party organization of the Communist Party of Mexico, PCM, in Yucatan Peninsula points out, on the afternoon of last Sunday, March 27th, the streets of Tambanca neighborhood of the Tulum municipality, Quintana Roo members of the municipal police subdued a woman. This is like roughly translated. Recognized as Victoria Esperanza Salazar Arianza from from the city of Sonsonate, El Salvador, in an obvious abuse of authority that caused her suffocation and consequently death. So, Quintana Roo. Okay, thank you. PCM is trash. I mean, yeah, a lot of communist parties are pretty bad. Former Hasbot's on. Hey, what's up? Jules is on, and Virgin Mary. I've not seen you on before. Cool. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm glad that they're covering stories of police abuse, but I wouldn't be surprised if PCM is bad. I mean, CPUSA is nothing to brag about. But yeah, let's see. Once again, it becomes more than clear the repressive and class role of the state forces, which do not fulfill the role of protecting the working class and the popular strata, but rather ensure the interests of the bourgeoisie. Okay, so standard communist line. While thousands of voices demand the end to femicides and the systemic violence against working women, the police, the repressive arm of the state, assassinate them with impunity in broad daylight. Additional to this problem is the fact that the government of the Fort with an OU, Fort Transformation, intends to create military protocols in the municipal, state, and federal police, as well as in the National Guard, the Navy, and the Army. Will the working class be safe when the armed forces in the street, with the armed forces in the street, or will they only be there to repress anyone who represents a nuisance for the capitalists' interests? In capitalism, the forces of the state serve the oppression of one class over another. Yeah, it's just socialism 101. You will never see a policeman or military officer repressing the big businessmen or their children. However, the frequent repression against the working class and the popular strata does not stop, as it has been demonstrated on more than one occasion in the state of Quintana Roo. We join the voices of outrage for that fact, and demand that those who are involved will pay for their actions. We demand the resignation of Tulum's municipal president, Victor Masta, as well as of the General Director of Public Security and Municipal Traffic of Tulum, Nescler Ignacio Vicencio Mendez. We demand an end to the violence and repression exercised by the entire Quintana Roo police forces, as it is not the first time that a police officer commits police brutality against a citizen. Well, obviously not. We know that these events will not cease if the capitalist system which causes them is not destroyed, and that is why the Communist Party of Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula emphasizes that Communist Party of Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, so like they only covered that part of Mexico, emphasizes that the fight must be directed in the root of the problem against the capitalist system for socialism-communism. I mean, yeah, like, I was expecting more information about that encounter, I guess, especially since they said the details about it were sparking outrage, so not a great article. Yeah, it might be just a chapter. I'm guessing that's what it was. Not to be confused with PCM-ML, which are based. Okay. Thank you, Virgin Mary. Very helpful. Lots of similarly named parties. They don't have a presence outside Mexico City, so that's this PCM, which is actually, yeah, what I was thinking at first. Especially since their whole rape shit got exposed. Yeah, okay. That seems to be an unfortunately common thing. A lot of sex pests getting into these politics. And then they go on and complain about femicides in the news articles that they write. I guess trying to make up for it or something, but it's pretty gross. Yeah. So it's like the US where there's dozens of communist parties. I mean, I think it's like that in a lot of places. It's like that in Europe or in the UK. Too many weirdos. Apparently it's worse in Mexico than in the US, though, according to the chat. I mean, that makes sense because, like, the big one in the US, CPUSA, is pretty co-opted, and otherwise they tend to repress socialist movements pretty hard. And I guess, I mean, it's hard to outdo the US in regards to that kind of thing, unless you're doing, like, you know, what Indonesia did. Yeah. Sectarianism was a mistake. Yeah. Oh, I don't have the anti-sectarian emote on this chat. Oh wait, no, I do. It's non-sectarian. There you go. Yeah. Imagine if all the efforts that are put toward infighting were put towards something else that was actually productive. I'll come on the show to talk about the Mexican leftist scene someday. Hell yeah. I've got a matrix. You can contact me there. My address is the same as my handle here or wherever else. Boss agnostic, no space or hyphen or anything. In the States, anarchists are more productive. No. Yes, I would say so, but I'm biased because I'm an anarchist. The reason I would say anarchists tend to be more productive is because when you have an organized party structure, it's like that's a target that you can use. You can, like, get into the power structure, become a leader or something. You can use procedure against people. But when people are more loosely coordinated, it's harder to subvert that. So, I mean, it's a kind of a mechanical thing. See, I'm not going to get really deep into this. Sometime I'm going to go into, like, my theory of, like, synthesizing the different left sects, not sects, sects, the different types of socialism. But think of it like you're playing chess or something. Think of it like a game, right? There's these different mechanics, and you have to think about how the different strategies interact with each other. In some contexts, it's more useful to have, like, a party structure, and in some contexts, it's more useful to have a loose, decentralized structure or no structure. So you could discuss different kinds of sects as well. I could, but not on Twitch. Twitch is very banhammer happy about sex stuff, so even sex education, you gotta be careful. It's a US-based company, so it's how it is. Can't even show female nipples in any context except breastfeeding, I think. But yeah, that's Twitch. Twitch has gone the O'Reilly route. You mean Bill O'Reilly? The erstwhile Fox News darling before the allegations happened. Just enough tits to get ad money, but not, yeah. Oh yeah, I made a comment to this effect the other day on the site too, yeah. Just enough to get the donations, the bits from the thirsty viewers, but not enough to make the ad revenue go away, yep. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what you should expect from somebody who's cynically pursuing profit, right? The MLM groups are LARP centrals, from what I've heard, in the U.S. Yes. That's a big problem. I think probably not just the U.S., but a lot of places. You have people who are, like, obsessed with the aesthetics or with history and, like, particular movements of the past. They get really into, like, a particular country's history. And while it's useful to have that knowledge, you do need to be able to put it in a contemporary context and say, okay, how much of this works, how much of it doesn't? Now, here and now. But yeah. And yeah, there's more LARP. Although I will say, cards on the table, there's more LARP from the MLs and the MLMs, because when it comes to like large scale projects, they have more successes. So there are more historical examples to emulate. It's pretty LARPy to go around wearing those, what are they called, those hats that they had at Catalonia. That's pretty LARPy. We don't have as many examples among anarchists to just go full LARP, have those uniforms and march holding up books and stuff. So I gotta cop to that. That's a big factor, I think. A lot of those LARP types would be doing anarchist LARPs if there were more examples of that. Yeah. Where are we? Yeah, talking about O'Reilly. Obagora the Sassenach, no. Yeah. O'Reilly's one of those Irish, very Irish names. Ontology. What are we talking about there? I've got a Mao suit. Only break it out for protests. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little LARP. There's nothing wrong with, like, paying tribute, right? U.S. Red Guard. More like Fed Guard. Yeah, we're nowhere near a point where a U.S. Red Guard would work. That's just how it is. Just kidding about the Mao suit. It's still cool. Oh, I know what hauntology is. I just was wondering what the context was. It's an interesting thing. We might do that sometime. Yeah, it's Mark Fisher. Or I thought he coined the term. You say he talked about it. I thought maybe he was quoting somebody. But yeah, it's like this idea of these past movements are haunting people, and they're continuing to exist as like specters instead of like really existing. Like the Soviet Union's gone, its ontology, its existence is gone, but there's people who are still like obsessed with it or still interested in the aesthetics and history of it. So it's sort of haunting the world. It doesn't have a continuing ontology. It's got like, but it's not gone either completely. It's still haunting us, right? I think that's, Derrida coined it, Mark Fisher appropriated. Okay, that's what it was. Mark Fisher was pretty smart, but he took a lot of information from other people. Thank you, Virgin Mary. Yeah. Anyway, I think we've covered that enough since we spun off of Mexico's PCM, right? Yeah. And the LARP parties in Mexico and the U.S. I was really wishing that article had more information about the police encounter, but it was just standard communist lines. It's a bummer. COSATU SACP welcome ANC confirmation to step aside rules. I do not know what those acronyms are. Following the conclusion of its heated NEC meeting at the weekend, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa said the resolution taken at the party's 54th National Conference was non-negotiable. The so-called step-aside rules could see ANC Secretary General Ase Magashule and several other party leaders step down from their posts pending the finalization of their criminal cases. South Africa, okay. Oh, there we go. SACP, Communist Party of South Africa. Okay. I guess it's like, maybe it's, the name is in like Afrikaans or something, but like South Africa Communist Party or something. Fisher made concepts palatable. He knew how to apply them to contemporary culture and show their significance. I agree with that. Also a pretty good commentator on the state of the left while he was around. So I literally don't know what the significance of this story is, because I don't know what the step-aside rules are. I already got it open. Following the conclusion of its heated NEC meeting at the weekend, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa said the resolution taken at the party's 54th National Conference was non-negotiable. The so-called step-aside rules could see the ANC Secretary General Ase Magashule and several other party leaders step down from their posts, pending the finalization of criminal cases. Right, so that was from the summary, but like, what's actually going on here? I feel like a lot of these stories don't make that much sense if you don't know the context. Magashule out on, what is the R? What is that unit? 200,000 something. Bail on 21 charges of fraud and corruption for his alleged role in the multi-million rand, rand is the 200,000 rand bail on the multi-million rand asbestos audit contract scandal in the Free State. Jeez. That's an awful combination of words. Multi-million rand asbestos audit contract scandal. Yikes. All right, they're talking about something else in chat right now. I'll get to that in a minute. Kosatu said the step-aside rules were a positive step in the right direction. However, the Labor Federation raised concerns that it had witnessed a lot of these encouraging steps in the ANC before, only to see them falter during the implementation phase. Kosatu National spokesperson Sizwe Pamela said experience had taught them to wait for the implementation of the decision before making their final assessment of its significance. Seems wise, just as a rule, you know. The organization has attracted an army of vexatious litigants in its ranks who have used the judicial system to undermine organizational discipline and fight factional battles. The Federation believes the successful implementation of this ANC-NEC decision will go a long way in making the ANC a more effective leader of society and a sharp instrument for fundamental change, Pamela said in a statement. Somebody reached for that thesaurus there. Yeah, all right. All right, very short, just a little bit left. Implementation long overdue. SACP National Spokesperson Alex Mashilo said the implementation of the resolution was long overdue. He said the rules would go a long way in clamping down on state capture and other forms of corruption in the tripartite alliance, government and economy. The SACP has fully supported the resolution and continues to support it resolutely supporting the resolution. When they're making these quotes, they need to, like, pick better words. The implementation of the resolution is long overdue, considering that the ANC first adopted it 8 years ago at its 53rd National Conference in December 2012. The 54th National Conference of the ANC reaffirmed the correctness of the resolution 3 years ago in December 2017. Building revolutionary moral high ground is one of the pragmatic bases of a reconfigured alliance and is important to the necessity to forge a widest possible patriotic front. This might be poorly translated. Behind advancing, deepening, and defending the second radical phase of the National Democratic Revolution, Mashilo said in a statement. The SACP called on all members of the movement to support the implementation of the resolution and to intensify the fight against state capture and other forms of corruption. So, I mean, that seems like a reasonable thing. You want to purge people from the party who are, you know, getting caught being corrupt in a, what is it? Multi-million rand asbestos audit contract scandal. There's a lot about that that's gross. All right. At the same time, Kosatu said the ANC, as a leader of society, had a responsibility to lead from the front in fighting corruption, which is destroying the moral fiber of the organization and also our society. Yeah, I mean, sounds pretty bad. of the ANC-NEC's decision is significant because many ANC members and leaders do not support corruption. Let's take a poll. Who supports corruption? And want to end the politics of patronage, factionalism, and careerism and crafts materialism. We hope this newfound assertiveness of the ANC can also be used to rein in the tiny minority of ANC leaders who believe they are above the organization and their word must be taken as policy. These mavericks are leading an onslaught against the working class and government, and this is poisoning the political relations between the ANC and the workers. Well, I mean, sounds like they're trying to take care of business and keep the organization from becoming derailed. I mean, I don't know the details too much of South Africa's politics, especially with regard to communism. But, I mean, yeah, if you're getting caught in corruption scandals, maybe you don't belong in a People's Party in a leadership position. Yeah. All right, let's see. Anti-LARP action? I don't know. It certainly shouldn't be anything like anti-fascist action. It should be like, you know, a gentle nudge, like, hey, maybe cut it out, maybe like put your efforts to something else, right? You don't want to smash the LARPers. I've been detached from Mexican politics because fuck real life. I feel you. Yeah. Apparently there's a video of the event of the police officer in Mexico. Yeah, they didn't say anything in that article that you could tell was going on. Very disappointing. But I'm glad that News Anon included some information because it's a pretty major looking event. I could read up on it and get some proper leftist views from my comrades and share whenever you'd have me. That sounds really good, Virgin Mary. I like that a lot. It sounds like that's, I mean, the parallel to George Floyd's obvious, right? It sounds like that could be a major thing in Mexico. I don't know. I don't know when it happened exactly, what the timeline is on all that, but yeah, that would be awesome. Should be introductory reading for non or on the fence socialists. I think that's capitalist realism that's referring to. Yeah, that guy does love the word resolution, former Hasbot. Oh, former Hasbot, you're pro-corruption. We got somebody who's pro-corruption. You must be one of those people that's like, they said, I think most of the party doesn't want corruption, so you must be one of the minority who does. Yeah, my only thing is your LARP shouldn't take precedence over your praxis. I mean, that's a pretty reasonable way of putting it. Yeah. I don't think I have any quibble with that. Maybe the only thing I would say is, like, it's not just that one should come first, it's that you just don't want it to get in the way, right? You certainly don't want to be driving people away by acting too crazy and radical. We got some new people joining. Cool. Let's see, where are we? I did the Kosatu SACP story. All right, so we're 3 left in the first post, and then I'm going to take a bathroom break. 5 CPI Maoist cadres killed by police during firefight in Gadchiroli district. I think that's how it is. The operation was launched on Friday in Kobramenda area of Korkeda Tehsil in North Gadchiroli and ended in a 2.5-hour gun battle on a hillock. The police team took on around 60 CPI Maoist cadres positioned on top of the hillock. It was one of the longest encounters the district had seen since the beginning of the Maoist movement. I mean, that sounds like a pretty big deal. Let's see if the others are worth opening. I can come back if you'd like. Simone, how about I'm gonna take a bathroom break in a minute. Actually, here's what I'll do. I'll figure out which of these last 3 stories in this post I'm going to read. Then I'll take a bathroom break, and then I'll come back and read, and you can come back on that if you like. How about that? Base leftypol unity stream. I mean, I don't think leftypol was ever divided except those times that we split. If somebody wants to advertise this on Bunker Chan, go ahead. I operate out of .org these days. But, I mean, yeah, I would love it if the community wasn't split. It's a shame that it keeps happening. Hopefully .org is stable for a while, but yeah. All right, I think that's everything from the chat. All right, so we've got the story of the Maoist cadres. Next one is Israeli forces rearrest Palestinian man celebrating release after 20 years in prison. I'm going to have to read that one. God, that's just absurd. When you spend 20 years in prison only to get out and be rearrested. What was that movie? It's what is it, Al Pacino, who's like, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. It's one of those gangster movies, I think. But like, God, that's ridiculous. 20 years, you get out, and then you get rearrested. Like, even independent of like context, what country it is and whatever else, that's rough. The 45-year-old, so he was 25 when he was put in prison initially. The 45-year-old was first arrested in 2001 at the peak of the Second Intifada and was charged with belonging to the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, Marxist-Leninist group, and plotting military acts against Israeli targets. When he was arrested, Barbar was forced to leave behind a 15-day-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. Well, we're going to read that when I get back. Oh, man. As Germans flirt with idea of first Green Chancellor, a key opposition figure warns of the party's cultural Marxist agenda. Oh, hey, we've got 2 people on YouTube now. Nice. This is, by the way, simultaneously streaming on Twitch and YouTube, and I've got the chats from both up in front of me if anybody wants to say hi. There's also the super secret SciTube, if somebody wants to find that. Oh yeah, green arrows on cultural Marxist. Still getting thrown around. At least it's not postmodern neo-Marxist. That's a much worse one. But yeah. Big downside of internet as we have it. Always an individual owns server or owns DNS. Yeah, that's background for the split that happened on leftypol. Disagreements between mod team and the site owner. You could do a peer-to-peer website, I'm sure. I'm not enough of a techie to figure it out or to riff on it, but I'm sure you could work out a way to do a peer-to-peer website entirely from the ground up. Can't be that impossible. Yeah, and that's just like the nature of how the internet's structured right now, is that it's very, very oriented toward private property. Yeah. All right. So yeah, what's going on with cultural Marxists? You could, but not easily and not accessible through a browser without running Tor. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to have complicated workarounds, I'm sure, but you definitely could do it. I'm sure you could do it. It would just be difficult. But that's about internet infrastructure. What's going on in Germany? Speaking exclusively with RT.com, the alternative für... Oh, this is in German. Alternative für Deutschland Euro MP warned, the Green Party is not about ecologism. It is now a culture... Oh, okay. No, this is not... This. I was thinking maybe it was going to be a left critique of green policies, but nope. It's now a cultural Marxist internationalist party, so they would press for a much more centralized EU state fiscal union, ever more money printing by the European Central Bank, solidarity in more policy areas, a green transition. In short, everything that is subsumed beneath the term the Great Reset. well, maybe they suck, but I don't know. I'm tempted anytime somebody pulls out that scare phrase, that like scare word, cultural Marxist, to think that they're, probably whoever they're criticizing is pretty all right. I don't know. I don't think we really need to read that article that sounds like general rightoid screeching. So we got two up. We got the CPI Maoist ones, and we got that guy rearrested after 20 years, and that Palestinian guy. All right. I'm going to go take a quick bathroom break, probably 5 minutes. If somebody wants to queue up a short video or something in the SciTube, go ahead. And here I was thinking that there was going to be a fade. It just cut straight to it. I need to work on the transitions. All right, I'm back. I had a couple of news stories queued up. I'm going to read those, and then, I don't know, we'll see what the chat's feeling like. We got 13 Twitch viewers, 2 YouTube viewers, which is nice. Hey, everybody. Actually, I'll start by catching up with the chat, because the chat was saying some stuff while I was gone. What was it? Stay hydrated. Yeah, very important to stay hydrated. You want to take care of yourself, and water is, well, these days it's a commodity that's being traded on exchanges. Oh, there we go. Hey, I'm on. I think that you're muted for the chat, though. Just to make sure you're good and ready. You sound good. I can put you through now if you want. All right. So you should be live now. Bringing back Simone so that we can do some news reading here. And I don't.
What's good, everyone? Oh, I hear echo.
You hear echo.
How is it now? Okay, it sounds better now.
Okay. You might be getting. Yeah, you might be getting echo because of how my sound doesn't like to work with Element Chat much.
Sorry,
Anyway,
all good.
If you can hear, though, that's good. You're coming through good, so you should come clear on the stream.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right. Yeah, there shouldn't be any echo on the output. I think there's just a problem because of the way that Element doesn't like to let me switch which audio feed I use with it. So you might be, I think, Simone, you're hearing anything that I'm playing on my computer, which includes you. So there might be some echo for you, but nobody else should hear any. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, chat was just talking about water. There are legit some people who will not drink water, won't drink anything unless it's sugary or alcoholic. It's a uniquely American thing, I think. Yeah, the U.S. sure does love its sugary drinks and beer.
Indeed. Indeed, a burger moment.
I lose respect in people when they tell me that. Yeah, burger moment. Hold on. let's get some burger. Let's get some burgers in the chat. Yeah, I really wish that I could play the SciTube emotes with that little emote window. I don't think there's a burger that I can put in the Twitch chat, but whatever. Yes, dog bless. So yeah, the two stories that I queued up were that one about the Maoists and the Palestinian guy who got rearrested. So Simone, you have the news thread open?
Yes, I have the article open.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if I needed to tell you where I was in the post. We're at the end of the OP. All right.
Okay.
You want to go in order, or do you want to just? Is there like you want to do the Israeli one first?
Do you want to start with CPI?
All right. This is from Red Spark. Oh, it was April 1st for them, I guess, when they published it. Yeah, April 1st, 2021. 5 CPI Maoist cadres killed by police during firefight in Gadchiroli district. Okay, and then now the article's saying March 30th, so this is when the event happened, I guess.
I see 31st. Oh, who knows? Yeah, let's go.
So you're seeing a different date than I am, even. Oof. Yeah, okay. Yeah, somebody's asking you a question in the SciTube, Simone. I'll go in and read this, and then we can comment on it. Gadchiroli District, March 30th, 2021. Gadchiroli police killed 5 cadres. 5 cadres. So I don't even know how many people that's going to be. of the CPI Maoists, including a top-ranked operative, in an operation on Sunday. The operation was launched on Friday in Kobramen area of Korkeda Tehsil in northern Gajiroli, and ended in a 2.5-hour gun battle on a hillock. The police team took on around 60 CPI Maoist cadres positioned on top of the hillock. It was one of the longest encounters the district has seen since the beginning of the Maoist movement. 2 policemen were injured and have been admitted to the district hospital. Additional SP operations Manish Kalwania, who led the police action, said both are out of danger. Among the Maoists killed was Bhaskar Hichami, 46, a Dandakaranya Special Zone Committee member of CPI Maoist.
Bhaskar.
Sorry?
Bhaskar is the name. Yeah, it's like the Jacobin guy, actually. Yeah, they have the same name. Yeah.
Okay.
Bhaskar.
Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Hichami became the first DKSZC member to be killed in a police action in Gajiroli. So, DKSZC, that is Dandakaranya Special Zone Committee. Yeah, that's the fight. Wait. Oh, the K is in Dandakaranya. All right. The encounter began around 6:30 a.m. with 6 teams of elite C-60 commandos, totaling around 150, and approximately 60 Maoist cadres from Company 4, Kasansur, Korchi, and Tipiga Dalams. Wow. 150 versus 60. Visibility was good due to shedding of tree leaves, but they were in an advantageous position at the top, Kalwania told the Indian Express. The exchange of fire went on for about 2.5 hours. God, that's... Following which the Maoists retreated. Okay, so it sounded like they wiped them out, but some of them retreated. 5 of them, including Hichami, were found dead on the spot. We saw them taking at least 4 injured away. The others...
I think, it's not the worst situation, right? Keep in mind, these are real guerrillas, right? They're going to go in up top, right? Do what they can and then go off.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is kind of like part of being a guerrilla, right?
Yeah, and it's a means of, engaging in a kind of warfare. Also notably, over recent years, there's kind of been an expansion into where this area is, Maharashtra, right? For more so of the eastern areas of India, in sort of southernish India, maybe more mid.
Let me pull up a map, actually. What are they called? Provinces?
They're states.
States, okay. Yeah, I'm going to pull up a map so that we can actually get a reference here. Which of these looks best? I think that's a pretty clear one. All right, so here we've got, I think that should be easy enough to see. All right, so which state are we in right now?
So I would say sort of, you see the panhandle in Andhra Pradesh, the yellow state, kind of jutting out on the east coast.
Yeah, or the east coast.
At the very bottom.
At the bottom?
Down, point down. Like go near Tamil Nadu and Odisha in between.
Wait, oh, here. Here, you meant this panhandle.
Yes.
Okay, you meant that thing.
You go from the sort of panhandle through the pink state Chhattisgarh, right? And then you go up to the green state Bihar, and then you go sort of in a curve towards West Bengal, right? And then you go downish, but even in terms of the sort of neck towards the northeast, they have an ish presence there comparatively. But right
Okay.
now, sort of that area of India has been where you've seen a presence.
All right.
But, after having some, retreat in area, it seems that in recent years you're sort of seeing an introduction to them moving a bit westward, still among the community that they've built their base among, right, in their People's War, which is the tribal, people in, these very remote, sparsely populated areas, such as actually where they were, right, which is one of the least populous regions in the state. It has like 1 million people. It's very sparse. And keep in mind, this is like sparse.
And which state
in
is
India.
that you're talking about? Where they originally-
Maharashtra. It's the state that Mumbai is in.
Oh crap. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, this is where they initially were. Over here, Maharashtra.
Well, yeah, that's the newish area, and it's not
Oh,
there.
this is-
It's the very, very, very
Is
east,
this the east part?
where the A is at, to the right of the A.
Okay, yeah. So this
Yeah,
like
that's where
border
they're
area.
at. Very sparse.
Okay.
And yeah, there's the tribal presence. So I think, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, it seems like in recent years that's been a place where they've been gaining ground. And yeah, this seems to sort of speak to that.
Where did they initially start?
They initially sort of started around, West Bengal, the southern parts of Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Odisha. And these are by far the most impoverished parts of India.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they are very, very, very impoverished. And yeah, they build a presence in this. Yeah,
Up here in the poorer areas, and then kind of pushed down to now they're kind of like, I guess, central-ish India, right?
Yeah.
Relative to the whole, let's pull out to here, this is the whole continent, or subcontinent. So yeah, all the way up to right here-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty substantial gain. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have a good... I feel like people in the audience may not have a good, including me, may not have a good concept of the scale of India relative to like Europe or something like that.
Well, it's funny, right? Because it's quite a bit smaller than both China and the US. Of course, that would probably be different if, say Pakistan and Bangladesh were still part of the larger, country itself. But yeah, it's a very small area with a ton of fucking people, right? It's, it's like 1.2 or I think it's like 1.2 billion, maybe more. Yeah, and it's all in an area smaller than the US.
Yeah, so here's the U.S. I've got true size of right here. Here's the U.S. next to India. So here's India right here in the U.S. And let's see. How do you get... Well, here's China. We'll use China as a point of reference, too. So
Yeah, I mean, Spook, the interesting thing about India and China, both of them, is the fact that, like, they're both subcontinents, right? They had these very distinctive regions with their own languages, and, in India, they come from, completely different families in some cases, right? They're entirely isolated sort of languages that have, largely retained a lot of their classic structures, right? And in both cases, it's kind of, because of empire, ultimately, right, that we have the delineations of places like India or China, right? And these national identities are kind of being formed in real time.
Right. Yeah, and they're very recent constructs. And yeah, it's taking, modernization sort of with these borders to actually kind of cause these different countries to cohere as a single country, as opposed to, the different pieces, right?
Yeah. And, it's remarkable, right? Because you get certain contradictions, like, an anti-revisionist Maoist party being able to build a very, very meaningful, but maybe not the most substantial, but meaningful base among, the indigenous population, right? And in spite of this continuous pressure against it, right? I mean, that base seems to have retained. It continues onwards as both center, left, and right governments, go right fucking at them.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that India is, pretty big, it's not like huge as countries go, but also very populous is probably a pretty big advantage there. I can't speak too much to like the terrain of the country though. I think it's kind of varied, isn't it?
It's a little bit of everything, much like China, right? Much like the U.S., right? For example, where I'm from, it's very, very, very humid, right? And then there are hills, right? And then you have a really strong rain shadow. So literally, you cross the hills, you get into arid area almost immediately.
That's a little geography lesson. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. Not only does India have a shit ton of people, I'm reading from the SciTube chat. Not only does India have a shit ton of people, it has many, many nations inside, religions, languages, customs. And India has over 50 languages that are nationally recognized and over 100 dialects after that. Yeah. I mean, God, what is the population of India currently? It's over 1 billion. It's like 1.2 or 3. I don't remember. Let me look that up real quick.
Virgin and Mary, Smiley, like Spook, exactly, sorry. They're settler colonial societies, right? That leads to those impositions, right? Or, I mean, in a way, right, you kind of see it in India, right? I mean, its history, especially in these nations, of course, is very, very old, so that's retained, but, like, English is there, right? It has its inscription, right? It's a lingua franca.
Yep.
I imagine in a similar way, though, right, in a place like Brazil, you have a lot of indigenous languages, right? Even, like Mexico, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm not like a big expert on pre-Columbian Americas, but like a huge variety of cultures there for sure. Large and small. Like you've got basically like empires that existed. Those are the ones people are familiar with mostly, but you've got tons of smaller cultures too.
Portuguese is nasal Spanish. That's funny.
2018 estimate for India's population is 1.35 billion. So I was about right.
Fuck.
Huge population. Second largest.
Should we move on?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I closed the SciTube. I hate when I have a bunch of tabs open and like the little X to close a tab is about the same size as the whole tab. All right. Nasal Spanish. All right, so now that we've seen like some more information on India to sort of flesh that out. The others, back to the story about the CPI members who were being attacked. Those
communists are amazing.
Oh, hey, somebody followed us. Pirate Anarchist, thank you for following. You got the Alex Jones follow notification. All right.
Are there other ones?
There's alternates, yeah. It's really easy to set up alternates. Yeah. For some reason, the first time I streamed, I kept getting the Caleb Maupin ones, even though I set them to be rare. But it's random, so you know how it is. The others killed were identified as Sukhdev Natam, 32, Deputy Commander of Tipagad Local Organizational Squad.
Those communists are amazing.
JS Blue 549 is following. Thank you for the follow. Same one again. I think it tends to do the same one like over and over sometimes. Anyway. Commander of Tipagad Local Organizational Squad, LOS. Amar Punjam 30 from Jagar Gunda there's two H's there. Chhattisgarh and a member. Can you say it again? Chhattisgarh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pronounce it well.
You kind of have to get it in your throat a little bit, like.
Chhattisgarh. Howdy from the
anyway, let's go. Let's keep going.
So, hey, JS Blue. Posting in the Twitch chat. Let me just remind you that what happens when you post emotes in the Twitch chat, you get these little things. I encourage people to post some more. That's supposed to be good for the metrics, but I don't know about Twitch too much. I know more about YouTube with that. Let's keep going though. Chhattisgarh. I'm sorry. I'm gonna butcher all the Indian here.
Just keep at it, Yeah, keep at it.
It's an exposure thing, right? And a member of Kasatur LOS in Gadgiroli, Sujata alias Punita Gaude, alias Atram, 38. So 2 aliases, from Platoon 15 of CPI Maoist, and Asmita alias Suklu Pada, 28, member of Tipagad LOS. So those were the identified deceased from the attack. All right. Yeah, that's... I don't think it said... Did it say how many? 5 of them were found.
5 were found dead, and 4 were found injured, being taken back.
They said that they saw them taking 4 away. So 150 versus 60, 5 deaths. That's like, they drove people away, but that was about it, I guess. Yeah. Still sucks to see people getting killed like that.
Yeah.
Post-operation, the police said an AK-47 rifle, 1.12 bore rifle. I've never seen that caliber before. 1 303 rifle, 1 8mm rifle, some electronic material, and many used items were recovered from the spot. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they raided everything.
Yeah.
Hichami, who was part of the Maoist movement for about 21 years, was recently made DKSCC member, one of the highest positions in the ranks of the CPI Maoist. Kalwania said, we had information that Maoists were planning a big action under the tactical counteroffensive campaign program in Korkeda. So we launched an operation on Friday. 2 exchanges of fire took place in an area about 5 kilometers from Sunday's spot. We suspect at least 1 Maoist operative was grievously injured during Friday's exchange, where there were bloodstains on the spot. After Friday's encounter, he said, the Maoists retreated, but we know their probable routes, so we continue to track them and finally trace them on the hillock. According to the police, Hichami had also served as bodyguard of CPI Maoist Central Committee member Devji and went on to become Gadgiroli Divisional Committee member and was made DKSCC member. His wife, Kamala, was also believed to be in the Maoist formation during Sunday's encounter. Yeah, so this is a skirmish in Gadgiroli district of... and this is... I closed the tab. I wanted to sum up with... Yeah, this is Maharashtra, right?
Yes.
So like eastern part of Maharashtra.
And Chhattisgarh, the one you were struggling with, is right by it as well.
Oh, I wasn't looking at Chhattisgarh, or Chhattisgarh.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah. All these languages have very different sounding phonemes, and they're difficult to wrap your head around.
Oh, good.
All right.
Well, keep at it, CPI Maoist.
Yeah, I mean, it's progress for them, that's for sure. If they're provoking that kind of response, All right, let me check what's going on in the chat now that we finished an article. What's up, G's? Watching news. Somebody's posted Bong Rip Stalin. Dope as fuck to see a leftypol Twitch. Also a YouTube channel. Excuse me. Oh. Excuse me. But the best chat, the active one right now, is the SciTube. The secret SciTube you have to find on leftypol.org. Yeah. Indian languages have a ridiculous amount of phonemes. You literally can't hear some of them unless you grew up with them or have heard it for some time. I tried, Hindi was one of the languages I've tried to learn on Duolingo, and I just couldn't because there were so many things where I was like, I cannot tell the difference between these things. I cannot tell the difference between these sounds. It was frustrating. Let's see what else we've got here. It's a very nice sounding language though to hear.
What's good? Enjoy the soy.
Oh, that's a regular.
Yeah, it is regular. Great name.
What was it? You're doing God's work, lad. Thank you. Simone's here too, also helping out, doing some reading and commentary. These pronunciations are funny, but at least you're giving it a go. Yeah. I try, but I do not succeed. What am I reading? Yeah, CPI Mouse was the story last. How many languages do I know? I can speak English and I can speak Spanish. My Spanish vocabulary is pretty weak because I haven't diligently spoken since high school when I was last learning it. I'm trying to learn some other languages, but you know how that's pretty tough. Trying to learn, what is it? Arabic, and Chinese and Russian on Duolingo, but having some struggling with that a little bit. That's some difficult stuff to be doing all at once.
Time to practice your Arabic pronunciation.
Oh yeah, I guess. Although it's going to be written in English, so I'm not going to. I'm never sure when they anglicize things, what the translated sounds are. Mandarin is difficult as hell. I tried to learn Mandarin in high school, and it did not work. Korean was actually, I tried to do a little Korean because I have some Korean family. Korean was even harder for me because with Hindi, I couldn't tell the sounds apart sometimes. But yeah, that's what you get for growing up with English in Burgerstan. So yeah.
Isn't the Korean script like perfectly phonetic or something like that?
I think it's something. Yeah, it's a phonetic script, which is funny because it's like it's surrounded by, what do you call it? Like more symbolic characters, but it's like literally it's like an alphabet. So it's like a different system from what its neighbors have. So yeah, it is. It's kind of odd, but yeah, I tried to learn it, and like I said, some of the sounds are too similar. I was like, I can't do these questions. But yeah, burgers of the world unite. I mean, what really matters isn't the burger in your hands, but the cholesterol in your veins. All right. Speaking of burgers and the world, Israel and Palestine. All right. Here's a messed up story, it looks like. Israeli forces rearrest Palestinian man celebrating release after 20 years in prison. I mean, just the headline, that's rough. Magid Babar's welcome home party raided by the Israeli military, who wounded several Palestinians before releasing him again on Wednesday. Okay, so he got out again. He got out again. I'm already feeling a little better. This is Middle East Eye, March 31st, 9 hours, 49 minutes ago. Oh wait, let's actually, there's a picture here, so let's identify these people. Magd Babar, a Palestinian prisoner of the occupied East Jerusalem, reunited with his wife Fatima, his son and daughter after 20 years in Israel jails. Social media doesn't identify who's who, but I'm pretty sure it's him, and then that's his wife and his kids. I mean, kind of obvious, but this is after
nice
he's
looking
released.
Family. Very nice looking family. Yeah,
they are. They look like a very nice group of people, and you can. I mean, look at his face. That looks like the face of somebody who just got out of a 20-year prison sentence. But I think this is a picture from before they rearrested him. Yeah. Yeah, as the chat said, Israel moment. Chad. I mean, yeah, this guy looks like a Chad. The scenes of jubilation following the Tuesday release of Magd Barbar, a Palestinian man who spent 20 years in jail, were brought to an abrupt and violent halt that night when he was rearrested by Israeli forces. Barbar was later released on Wednesday afternoon, the Handala Center NGO said. Well, okay, so Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday. So he was only maybe like for less than 24 hours. He was in custody. So not as bad as I thought it was going to be. The 45-year-old was first arrested in 2001 at the peak of the Second Intifada and was charged with belonging to the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, Marxist-Leninist group, and plotting military acts against Israeli targets. When he was arrested, Barbar was forced to leave behind a 15-day-old daughter and 2-year-old son. And then reunited with them 20 years later. Although I think maybe he probably didn't get visits. I don't know. Not sure where he was imprisoned. Outside of, being Israel. Israeli forces raided Barbar's home on Tuesday evening while hosting guests and relatives who came to visit him. Palestine's Red Crescent reported that about 12 people were wounded by rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, so they didn't just show up and arrest him. They raided the place. 12 people were wounded by rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, suffocation, and beatings.
They just charge him to a party with batons.
This reminds me of like when the United States drops a drone strike somewhere, and then they have a funeral for the people who died in a drone strike, and then they drop a strike on the funeral, right? Like, this is a party for this guy getting out of prison after 20 years, and then they go raid it.
And you see accounts of this actually in, I think, both Yemen and Afghanistan, right? Of like weddings, getting
multiple weddings,
fucking airstrike on them.
Yeah, finding like that moment of happiness, like a party or something. Like, no, you can't be celebrating. That's not allowed. Yeah. Where was it? Israeli forces also raided Qasr al-Hamra's hall in the East Jerusalem suburb of Azariah. I'm not sure when they do glottal stops with English, or with the anglicized version of it. But Azariah, where Barbar planned to host a lunch for friends and relatives the next day, as people eagerly sought to receive him after 2 decades in prison. As you do when somebody, gets out of prison for 20 years. Barbar's brother told media that Israeli forces asked the family to get rid of all welcoming signs in the house on Tuesday before returning in numbers to raid the home and rearrest him. So first they came and they said no fun. You got to take down all those signs. Azariah, thank you. First they come and they say take down all the signs, and then they come back and arrest him and shoot rubber bullets and tear gas. So, it's not like they even surprised them. Wow. That's a whole other layer to it. They're being, harassed, too.
Yeah, riot control on account of...
In video footage of Barbar leaving custody on Wednesday, the former prisoner said he refused an Israeli request to leave his home in East Jerusalem's Ras Al Amud for 5 days without elaborating on where they wanted to send him or why. I mean, yeah, seems like a reasonable thing to refuse. On Monday, especially after 20 years in prison, on Monday after reuniting with his family and wife, Fatma, Barbar said, for a person who believes in the justice of the Palestinian cause, a prison cannot break him, no matter how long it lasts, and I was reconciled with this idea of the length of my prison sentence, and with all its oppression, and my exclusion from my family, my wife, and my children. So, seems like a Chad to me. Man, they just too based to just be left alone. The Palestinian people cannot think of an option other than to hold fast in their land and to stand in it like an olive tree. We will not leave this land no matter what Israelis did, from killings to demolishing homes, Barbar added. Barbar told media that his wife Fatima means the world to me. She is my home. She was able to give our children for 20 years. That's not a good translation. This is the greatness of the Palestinian woman. So he's even like, in all this, he's like shouting out how great his wife is. This dude's like, I love this dude.
True.
His rearrest generated strong reactions on social media. Gadha Ouais, a Lebanese Al Jazeera anchor, said on Facebook that the Israelis arrested Barbar because they couldn't stand Palestinian celebrations of his release. Sounds about right. They arrested him because he and his family rejoiced, and because occupation is ugly and hates everything beautiful. According to Palestinian prisoners' rights group Adamir, 4,400 Palestinians were being detained by Israel as of March, with 33 of them serving more than 25 years, and 57 serving more than 20 years. 300 prisoners are from occupied East Jerusalem, like Barbar. I guess they're going to be harassed and rearrested when they get out, if they survive the sentence. Yeah. That guy seems really cool. It's fucked up that he had to deal with that shit.
It's been nice because in both cases, right, CPIM and this, it seems like shitty situations where people are holding steady, holding forth.
Yeah, I mean, in spite of everything, still there, still fighting, On one hand, it's really, it's like, really? But on the other hand, it is kind of heartening,
Maybe a shitty thing can be heartening sometimes.
Yeah. But then it makes me wonder, like, where's the Western left on this kind of stuff? There's people in these like terribly downtrodden places are able to do this kind of stuff. I don't know, I guess just suppressed too hard. All the radical sentiment got pulled out. Something like that. I don't know. All right, so that's I'm all through the OP. I'm gonna read through at least the last the second post here, and if there's anything that like really jumps out at me, I'll go read it. But I think that's op-ed. I think I'm about done for tonight. That's 8:45, but I'll at least read through the rest of the headlines here. Yeah, I'm reading News Anon, of course. Where else would I be reading? Also, speaking of reading stuff that the community has posted, if you want me to read an article, put it in the chat. I'll prioritize that because, obviously I should. But yeah, for now I'm gonna read through these headlines. U.S. judge dismisses lawsuit linking Palestine Solidarity Group to terrorism. You know they had to do it to him. God. But hey, that's good news. I think, based on the phrasing. Let's see. In a ruling released on Monday, federal judge Richard Leon rejected a claim that the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, USCPR, is liable for militant attacks against Israelis because of its support for the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions (BDS) movement and Gaza's Great March of Return. Well, I mean, I guess that's good to hear that the whole, political speech being hate speech thing is not advancing. I was worried that was going to be a real problem, so that's kind of good news. Oh, you want me to use the jungle theme? Okay. Wait, where is it? Oh, here it is. jungle theme. Just for you. Oh god, why am I doing this? This is awful. Okay, there, I changed the setting on my monitor so it's a little easier to read with this color.
It looks nice against the red.
Oh, it does. It does. That's actually a really cool contrast. Okay, thank you for the suggestion, Goma. Miku is nice too. Well, since I'm doing that, why not? Miku. I think that the colors clash a little bit here, but it's a pretty comfy theme in general. I'm gonna stick with jungle for now. Yeah, so that seems like good news about the BDS movement not getting sued for having an opinion and not buying things. That's some dark shit too, by the way. This idea that it's illegal to not buy things. I mean, that's opening up some dangerous doors there, isn't it? All right. The U.S. Labor Board isn't strong enough to protect workers from Amazon. Some union organizers want to go around it. I mean, that probably is true. Amazon repeatedly violated the rights of employees who pushed for health and safety improvements during the coronavirus pandemic, according to the nation's top labor regulator. But a year after the global health crisis began, the company has so far faced minimal consequences. Oh, it's BuzzFeed. Ugh. Well, there's an archive, though. If I'm going to read something, I probably should read that. I want to keep up with the Amazon unionization stuff.
Yeah. Just a quick passing thought. You know, something so interesting to me is that Amazon has these warehouses all over, right? And of all the places for this to start, it happens in Alabama.
Yeah, that really is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, you could say it's Freudian even, or like, it's this thing where the more you repress something, the harder it comes back, right?
No, and it's so funny because apparently, you know, you have this strange, like, situation where they can use right to work as a talking point because they can just say, you know, if you have it, right, you have it. Otherwise, you don't even need to do it. So why not just let it happen?
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny that it was Alabama. Also, Amazon is like one of those really interesting cases with you know, this argument about we're already living in socialism actually, because like the way that they've got distribution set up is actually really great at a logistical level. And it would be an incredibly good candidate for something that you would collectivize or nationalize or whatever, because it's already built all the infrastructure. All you have to do is, you know, operate it basically for a different end than profit. Just operate it for the end of getting things in people's hands that they need, you know.
And if you could get those web services, ooh.
Oh,
that would be...
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah, that would be a coup, wouldn't it?
Indeed it would. You know, in theory.
Literally a coup.
In theory.
Yeah, huh. Oh yeah, and that whole fake Amazon workers thing was, somebody's talking about that in chat. Oh, that was nuts. I mean, it's not the first time that you've seen corporations do that kind of crap, but boy, was that brazen. They were using what's that website that makes the faces with AI? This is not a real person is the name of the thing, I think. But like, yeah, they were using this really famous AI thing that generates faces that aren't real people out of like a library of facial features or whatever. And people noticed it because it was like a famous, it's like one of those meme AI face things, because that's like a really popular for people to pass around as like, ooh, isn't this spooky? And Amazon just went and used it because I guess they didn't think people would notice or something. Real contempt for the commoners there, I guess. But yeah, that's the whole thing is nuts, isn't it? If anything, you'd have a surplus of warehouses, etc. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a whole thing about like how high a level of production we've got right now, right? Because it's driven by profit and like this incessant need to make and sell things. Whereas if you weren't driven by the need to continuously make things to make more profit, just making things to meet needs, you could make things that last a lot longer and don't need to constantly be replaced. So yeah, any level of like the supply chain probably would be basically in a position of abundance or oversaturation. So yeah, like that's and that's like the whole bread pill thing, right? This idea that we've developed our infrastructure and our industry enough that we're basically in a post-scarcity society. I mean, that's what caused the Great Depression, right? It was a crisis of overproduction. So we can meet needs, at least like in the West, and we've got the technology to industrialize the whole world that way too. But the problem is that it's all being put toward profit. So you don't really have, you aren't politically able to use all of this wondrous technology and these productive forces that we've got to actually do what people need. Yeah, that would be like, I mean, Amazon is just distribution, really, but that would be like a huge thing to have in the hands of like, not even like socialism, but just in the hands of like even a like liberal democratic government. It'd be huge. Yeah. I mean, I could go on probably too long about Amazon. Let's move on to the next story. What's crazy is that Amazon could have absolutely generated them themselves with like no effort. Yeah, the faces, right? They were so lazy that they just went and used this other service to make a bunch of faces, and they had the technology. They could have like convincingly faked it themselves. I think probably they just hired like a guerrilla marketing firm or something, and of course they're going to operate for profit, so they're going to be concerned with cutting costs, and they're going to pick the laziest route possible, or the cheapest one at least, which means that they're going to go for some face generating AI that everybody can immediately recognize because it's a meme. Spend as little money as possible making the propaganda. Spend as little money as possible researching the methods to make the propaganda. Just do what you're already seeing people do that's really obvious, and make really shitty fake profiles that anybody can recognize. This is the kind of thing that you get when everything's operating so much for profit that you can't even really strategize properly with what you're trying to do. Oh, it's kind of beautiful in a way. Anyway, all right, I'm done with Amazon.
What is the name of that company that did Firefest marketing where they just had influencers post an orange tile?
Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, Firefest
fuck
was...
Jerry.
What?
It's called Fuck Jerry. It's called Fuck Jerry.
That's the name of the company, Fuck Jerry.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I really love these stories because they drive home exactly that point. Capitalists are not omnipotent. It's all just fools out for the fastest and cheapest buck. Excellent point. Excellent point, smiley face. Yeah, all right. For real, though, I'm done with Amazon. Let's move on. I'm going to get through this post. All right, that was Amazon. Next is, there's only 4 left in this post. Ocasio-Cortez on Biden infrastructure plan, not nearly enough. Well, yeah, no shit. This is not nearly enough. I gotta try to like nail that like tone that she has when she's complaining righteously about things. This is not nearly enough. The important context here is that it's $2.25 trillion spread out over 10 years. Jesus. 10 years. That's like... Oh, I wish I knew offhand just like how expensive all those Middle East wars were. For context, the COVID package... Oh, here, this is actually good. For context, the COVID package was $1.9 trillion for this year alone, with some provisions lasting 2 years. Yeah. So there you go. It's nonsense. The U.S. needs such a major infrastructure overhaul. It's ridiculous. Like...
We need to deal with our crumbling infrastructure.
Yeah. Folks, we need to do it. We have the worst infrastructure in the world. Everybody knows that our infrastructure is terrible. It's awful. It's hideous. It's absolutely in disrepair, and we need to fix it. But, like, see, that's like one of those things, if there was, like, you know, a USSA, the jump in quality of life just from like the infrastructure being fixed alone would be huge. There's like such fertile ground in the US for building like a functional society. But none of it's being used because everything is sold off for a buck. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's tragic. It's awful.
Speaking of another tragedy, centrist Democrats panned for demanding revival of major tax break for the rich.
Yeah, God. The state and local tax SALT deduction was capped at $10,000 as part of the 2017 Republican tax cut legislation. Thanks for reining me in, by the way. A change that prompted outcry from centrist blue state House Democrats who represent the higher income, higher tax areas that were disproportionately impacted by the limit. Yeah. So, this is why you got to vote for Democrats instead of Republicans, because the Democrats are going to bring back the tax breaks. I mean, like, how does anybody take people who make that lesser evil argument seriously? They just keep sliding to the right.
Well, you know, they're going to also introduce, you know, a bill for, you know, giving you a tax credit if you get a job that can't be found anyway.
Yeah. Wait, what? That's confusing. Hold on.
They have the earned income tax credit, right? So
Yeah.
the idea is that if you find a job, right, and if you reach a certain point of income, they'll give you a tax credit, right? And the idea, you know, the rationale is like, oh, you get a job, right? This incentivizes finding a job.
Because that's how incentives work. It only kicks in after you do the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's almost like a slightly different version of like means testing, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, precisely.
Once you, I mean, actually, it's like the opposite, right? Because means testing is like you get cut off after you get enough money, but then when you get enough money, you get this bonus. Bizarre. Yeah. I feel like that's pandering to the people who don't understand how tax brackets work and think that they'll make less money if they make more. Anyway, videos of new attacks on Asians in New York shock audiences as bystanders seen idly watching brutal assaults. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's good that people are like being aware of this kind of stuff now. But yeah, this has always been a thing. It's only gotten worse with like the China virus kind of shit, but it's always been there. Sifan Kim, a reporter for the local ABC News affiliate, said the man stated, "Fuck you, you don't belong here," as he attacked the woman. But as shocking as the incident was for its brutality, many social media observers were even more disturbed by the reaction of onlookers, who were, I guess, pretty blasé about it. Right? I might skim that a little bit, but it's almost 9 o'clock. Michigan man pleads guilty to smashing teen's face with bike lock because he was black. So, yeah, actually, like just pleading guilty to actually the part that's difficult to prove, that it's a hate crime, specifically motivated by race. Lee Moad, 43 of Newport, Michigan, faces up to 10 years in prison after pleading guilty Tuesday to willfully causing bodily injury to an 18-year-old because of the teen's race. He entered his plea before U.S. District Judge Stephen J. Murphy III. I mean, I guess that's newsworthy because, like, he pleaded guilty to it, and it's, like, confirmed, right? Man. I mean, I'm glad that this stuff is being seen finally, and it's not just like happening in the shadows, but God, it sucks to read these stories, especially after a long day of the whole George Floyd stuff. I mean, for those who are coming in late, I've been following it's not the George Floyd trial, it's the Derek Chauvin trial. He's the cop who killed George Floyd. I've been following that through jury selection, and I've been watching the trial proceeding, which were just on day 3. Day 4 is tomorrow. Today, they showed the whole incident where George Floyd died from a bunch of different angles. They showed all of the cop body cam footage, which was really up close. And they showed some additional CCTV footage, I think, that hadn't been shown before, including some stuff before the incident while he was still alive. So yeah, going from seeing that to seeing like an article about hate crimes is kind of rough. It's been a long day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's close to over. I'm gonna call it quits in the next couple minutes. I think I'm gonna maybe read the Amazon article and skim this one about. Well, I'll skim the one about this crime too. These two hate crime articles. I think that'll be enough to put me on my ass and make me want to stop. So.
Yeah, I might have to pull out before that, honestly.
That's fine.
I don't know how many more hate crimes I could take today.
Yeah, feel free to come and go whenever.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, hey, here's some news about that Amazon unionization process. So, very hot developing story here. The U.S. Labor Board isn't strong enough to protect workers from Amazon. Some union organizers... Why can't I say organizers? Some union organizers want to go around it. In the lead up to the biggest union vote in Amazon's history, the company has shown it can break the rules and get away with it. This is BuzzFeed, Caroline O'Donovan. Amazon recently violated the rights... You don't say.
Oh yeah, Virgin Mary is saying that they're down to replace me. Sent you a DM.
Oh, awesome.
Matrix.
Cool. Yeah. Oh shit. I don't know how I don't think I can do multiple chats at once.
So I'll pull up.
Okay.
All right, thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks,
good night.
Simone,
Maybe next time I come on, we can watch a Vosh video.
Don't fuck with me like that.
I'm sorry. All right, have a good
Anyone
night.
but Vosh. All right. Thanks for being on. Peace.
Mm-hmm. All right, peace.
All right. So shout out to Simone. Awesome help, especially with the article on India on CPI. So yeah, I'm getting a call from Virgin Mary in chat. Oh wait, that was a DM. There isn't a call yet. Yeah, I need to make a call. There we go. All right, I started a call. Let's see if this works. Simone is based, yes. Somebody posted Pog Haas in the chat. Uh-oh. It ended. Hold on, they're typing in the chat. Could I start? Hold on. I need to see what they're saying. The Virgin. Okay, let's not be too combative about other people. There's things about Haas that I respect. I don't want to dump on people too hard. The video that I made against him was largely in good fun. I would like to see him do better, rather than to just kick him out of the game. Element doesn't quite work. Okay, so let's try something a little different. Okay, yeah, different room. Let's see if this works. Turn off my well, apparently my camera doesn't work anyway. All right, I think we're in the room. Could you hear me?
Yep. Totally.
Oh, I can hear you too. Awesome.
Cool. So where were we?
We were just starting the article on the Amazon unionization. Boss agnostic has big dick energy. Okay, I'm not going to say something about myself, but there's lots of people out there who have little dicks, and let's not body shame them, okay? I think that's kind of uncool. I wish we would find a better expression than that, but I appreciate the compliment. What? I've straight up lied on leftypol? What?
No, I was talking about has.
Oh, Haas. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to pay too much attention to the chat. We need to read this article anyway. This is important. This stuff is good. All right. Let's see. All right, so here's the headline. By the way, do you have what should I call you on air? You're Virgin Mary of the chat.
Yeah, Virgin Mary's fine.
Okay, cool. So, Mary, what do you want to, do you have the news thread open so that you could see the articles or follow along?
Yep, yeah, I'm just pulling it up. Do you want me to read?
Oh, you can if you want to. That'd be cool. Cool. Basically just for, consistency so that we're all on the same page. But yeah, that's good too.
Okay, cool. So the U.S. Labor Board isn't strong enough to protect workers from Amazon. Some union organizers want to go around it. In the lead up to the biggest union vote in Amazon history, the company has already shown it can break the rules and get away with it. Amazon repeatedly violated the rights of employees who pushed for health and safety improvements during the coronavirus pandemic, according to the nation's top labor regulator. But a year after the global health crisis began, the company has so far faced minimal consequences. As COVID-19 spread into the spring of 2020, Amazon employees in New York City, Chicago, Seattle, Arizona, Pennsylvania, California, New Jersey, and Michigan pressured the company to slow down production and ramp up precautions by organizing petitions, press conferences, and even walkouts. Some of those employees subsequently faced disciplinary action at work. A few were even fired, according to charges they later made with the National Labor Relations Board. The federal agency tasked with adjudicating complaints about unfair labor practices and defending workers who want to unionize.
I just want to interject real quick. I didn't realize it was as widespread as that. I hadn't heard that list of states before. That's better than I thought it was. I'm glad that I think I pulled it up.
I've only heard about Oklahoma. I think there was one in Alabama, and
Alabama's
the New York one.
The what? I said Alabama's the big one, at least in the U.S. I think there was something in Germany maybe too, in Europe.
True. And the New York one, Jimmy Dore covered it. He interviewed the guy. I think he got fired. Something about I think one of them was very sick, and this guy pressured them to leave or something, and then he got fired or some shit.
Yeah,
it was a mess.
Yeah, I bet that would be a cool thing actually. Since Simone was joking about watching a Vosh video, some stuff from Jimmy Dore would be cool. Having some of his news coverage and the happenings in general would also be cool. Just some notes there for people watching in chat. Maybe we need to expand this a little bit, getting people in normally. Oh, hey Leo, what's up?
Hey Leo.
Regular
Bronx.
How do you say that? Leo Bronx. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Continue. I interrupted you on a roll.
No problem. In going up against their enormous and powerful employer, these Amazon workers turn up the NLRB for protection as they exercise their legal right to discuss problems at work and act collectively to fix them. But despite serving as the government's primary counterweight against powerful companies restricting the workers' labor rights, the NLRB is notoriously toothless in its current form, and in its current form has little power to penalize employers, especially those the size of Amazon, one of the nation's largest private employers, after hiring more than 400,000 people last year.
That's
Holy
not
shit.
The total labor force either. That's the number of employees that they hired last year. Now, obviously, there's people who leave and all that stuff too, so there's turnover. But that's new employees hired mostly for the coronavirus stuff, right? Because more people are ordering things on Amazon now that they aren't going to brick and mortar stores. But
It's
yeah.
insane. 400,000 people is like a city. It's larger than many cities.
Yeah, it's staggering. And again, that's just what they've added. They've got more than that. But yeah, let's emphasize that again. Can I? Oh, I can't zoom that well. 400,000 people hired last year by Amazon. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Yep. Even when the NLRB sides with the workers, the consequences or so-called remedies it's able to met out, typically small monetary settlements, back pay, or posting a flyer, are so minor that they do little to deter employers from violating the rules again. If Amazon workers do persevere despite retaliation and termination and successfully form a union, it's only one shop at a time out of hundreds. From Amazon's point of view, the NLRB is not a problem, UC Santa Barbara labor historian Nelson Lichtenstein told BuzzFeed News. As a remedy for employer violations of the law, it's very weak. It can have a public role as part of a larger campaign. You can get a judgment against a company, but it's weak. Well, yeah, like Amazon has like an insane amount of lawyers and shit, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Jeff Bezos was the richest man in the world as their CEO. He stepped down now and he's been surpassed by Elon Musk. But yeah, a company that size, tons of lawyers, lobbying power, and also just like for fines and stuff like that, just money to burn, right? It's ridiculous. But that's what you get when you're a monopoly, right? Monopoly on on deliveries and distribution and web services. A major player in video streaming now. Other stuff they got their fingers into.
Yeah. XXE Spooky Buster says, "Are we gonna live stream the Donbass war if it happens?"
That would, if we can get that going, yeah. That might force me to try to do that multi-stream setup again, like I did with the George Floyd protests, where I have like different streams in like the Panopticon kind of view.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that. If that happens again, yeah, that's a big deal. There's no news on the thread today for that, but we'll see where that's going. It seems like there's not a lot of good sources for that. But yeah, it's not. I was going to say the revolution will not be televised or whatever, but World War III will be live streamed if possible, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
This week, all eyes are on Bessemer, Alabama, where Amazon workers await the results of NLRB-facilitated union elections, widely believed to be the most pivotal in the company's history. Indeed, even a victory at a single facility could activate Amazon employees around the country to follow suit. But recent events in Alabama suggest the consequences Amazon has faced so far not discourage the company from taking a hard line against unions, and under current labor law, the government has little power to intervene. That's why even if the union wins in Alabama and workers embark on the long and difficult journey to winning a contract, some labor leaders question whether the best path to attaining more benefits for workers even goes through the federal agency in charge of the matter. Over the last few months, the NLRB has found merit with many of the high-profile charges brought by Amazon employees last spring, including Courtney Bowden's claim that she was illegally terminated, Jonathan Bailey's that he was illegally interrogated, Christian Smalls that he was illegally fired, and the claims by a group of workers in Chicago that they were illegally disciplined and intimidated following a series of walkouts. I think Christian Smalls is the New York City one. Oh,
okay. I'll see if I can pull up the Jimmy Dore video on that. Then, you said that he was the guy that.
Yeah, he was super based. I don't know, like he.
That's what Christian.
He seemed very class
Smalls.
conscious. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, he's just a bunch of videos about him. Let's see. But I'm not. Go keep going. I'll do that. Oh yeah, no, I did find it.
Okay, cool.
Keep going. I can pull it up later in a second.
Of those four cases, Amazon has so far paid one individual an undisclosed settlement and agreed to post a flyer in a Queens warehouse promising not to interfere with employees' right to discuss workplace conditions, take collective action, and organize a union. Workers in Chicago who were disciplined for going on strike are currently negotiating the terms of a non-financial settlement with Amazon. Small's hearing regarding his termination by Amazon has been delayed until May. Emily Cunningham and Marina Costa, the Seattle-based tech workers and former leaders of Amazon Employees for Climate Justice who were fired last April, following their effort to advocate on behalf of warehouse workers, are awaiting a response to their charge with the board, which they filed last October. So these were tech workers that got fired for advocating for warehouse workers.
Damn, we got some, what do you call it, cross stratum unity going on. That's, I'm surprised how based that is.
PMC solidarity, yeah.
I got a picture here of union workers rallying in support of unionizing Alabama Amazon workers on March 22nd in downtown LA. So yeah, it's a solidarity protest. These are your bougie PMC Californians supporting Alabamans. This is overcoming the class stratum distinction and the U.S. region distinction. I don't think I need to pull up a map for California versus Alabama, but yeah, that's pretty great. People of college. Yeah.
Yeah, Simone is pointing to something that says here that they are negotiating the terms of a non-financial settlement. Like, what does that even mean? Like, are they gonna get like a huge, massive pizza party or some shit?
A non-financial settlement. What would they be? Maybe it's a settlement for like contractual terms. It might have something to do with that. Because if it's not financial, it's going to be something that the company's doing for them or giving them. But I don't know. That could be, like actually achieving some kind of a goal, but it's vague, so we don't really know. Like, it could be better working conditions or something. Like, that would fall underneath a non-financial settlement. But I don't know.
I thought Leo Brunick said something about Albanians, but no. It says, honestly, kind of surprised that Californian libs would share oxygen with Albanians. I was like, what does Albania have to do with this?
Inver Hoxha would be an interesting addition to Alabama. They probably could use some bunkers down there to deal with hurricanes coming through, but yeah. Yeah, this is way better news than I even realized. I do have that Jimmy Dore video if now's a good time to play it. Oh, it's 17 minutes. Here's the title of it, and I'll post it in the SciTube chat. I'll post it in all the chats, actually. Fired Amazon strike leader has powerful message. This is April 2nd, 2020. So this is a year ago, like almost exactly a year ago now. So yeah, I'll post that in each chat. Twitch, YouTube, SciTube. That's the Jimmy Dore video. All right, we're not going to sit here and watch 17 minutes. Yeah. How long is this article? Do we want to go the whole way through it? It seems pretty long.
You tell me. I think it's pretty long. I mean, this is basically like just class struggle. In a nutshell, it's just class struggle.
Yeah.
Right, like a bunch of people struggling against Amazon specifically.
Yeah, and it's very relevant. I almost want to come back to this like tomorrow and read the whole thing. Let's do this. I'll post the archive link. This is a BuzzFeed article. I'll post the archive link in the chats, so anybody watching concurrently on SciTube, Twitch, or later on YouTube, or the two people watching now on YouTube will have that link. So there you go. That's the link to the archive of this BuzzFeed article on Amazon. So you can read it in full if you'd like. It's 9:20. Maybe, I don't know, let's do another couple paragraphs or something and then stop. And just talk to the chat. I'll talk to the chat for a minute, and then we'll go. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Do you wanna lead?
Oh, read? Yeah, sure. Even when you win, Liechtenstein said, winning doesn't mean that much. Bowden reached a private settlement with Amazon and withdrew her charge, meaning there are no official consequences for Amazon. I felt like they did the best they could with everything, she said of the NLRB in an interview with BuzzFeed News, but I know it didn't hurt Amazon at all. You gotta love when people are seeing what the limits of their abilities are within the framework they're using, right? They're saying like, this board's not really helping labor too much. Maybe we need to go beyond this a little bit.
Yeah, similar has happened in Mexico as well, where people have to like ditch their unions.
Oh, that's a big thing too, right? Like unions being shitty. But yeah, I feel like the general tenor is that all this is advancing right now. People are really starting to get it. That there needs to be a vigorous labor movement, right? In order to get anything done with this stuff. So yeah. Let's see. Amazon declined to comment on pending litigation regarding its settlement with Bowden. A spokesperson said, "While we disagree with allegations made in the case, we are pleased to put this matter behind us. The health and safety of our employees is our top priority, and we are proud to provide inclusive environments where employees can excel at stacking boxes on a timer and without bathroom breaks, with no AC that causes people to have heat stroke. You can excel at fucking maximizing Amazon's logistics. That's what you're excelling at. You're not excelling at like enriching yourself and being a better human being, producing something of value yourself. All you're doing is shuffling around boxes, stuff that they probably could automate robots to do, right? Employees are excelling in Amazon fulfillment centers. God, I hate this stupid fucking like whitewashed corporate bullshit so much. It's so grotesque.
On top of that being a lie, like
yeah,
they
right.
don't do that. Like there is fear of retaliation, intimidation, and harassment. Like, come on.
Yeah, without fear of retaliation, intimidation, or harassment. Yeah, though that's outright lies. Ugh. The company denied allegations made about its anti-union behavior, saying, "Our employees know the truth." Gaslighting. That's called gaslighting, folks. Starting wages of $15 or more, health care from day one, and a safe and inclusive workspace. So, like, they're trying to say, like, somebody, like, called them out on this, but they're, like, trying to say that they're woke because they're doing, like, bare minimum shit. Like, people are agitating for $15 as a minimum wage, and they're trying to be like, look at us for doing this thing that you think is bare minimum. Aren't we great? Like, who do they think they're fooling with this shit? Like, another case of, like, lowest common denominator, cheap, farmed out propaganda to somebody who's not even going to put in enough effort to make sure that it's decent at what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, like, you won't die working here a lot.
Our workplace fatality rate is lower than average. Yeah, and then also a safe and inclusive workspace. It's anything but safe. Like, forget about the inclusive meme that they love to do. It's hardly safe. Boxes and stuff that they're stacking like fall all the time. The racks that they're stacked on can fall over and kill people. It's hot. They don't get breaks. Hardly safe. Like, I guess safe is one of those words that kind of doesn't mean anything super concrete, so it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
You know, and inclusive in this context means like they probably hire a lot of black people, given that they're like, you know, like less and like more poor. They just like gobble that up and paint it as woke.
Yeah, it's like they're disproportionately targeting poor people who are disproportionately like minorities. And so they're saying, like, see, aren't we inclusive? We're including all these marginalized people who are poor and who can't find better jobs. Oh, yeah. All right.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like you really do have to kind of pick apart the way that they've constructed these fictions, right? This narrative is, it's like, it's so underhanded, you know? But Amazon's campaign against the retail, wholesale, and department store unions' Bessemer organizing drive has been so aggressive that President Joe Biden made a statement defending the Amazon workers' free and fair choice to join a union, a move by a sitting president almost unprecedented in American history, according to the Washington Post. Somebody posted a video of Vaush saying that we need to vote for Biden. But in all seriousness, though, this is like a good sign. It shows you that if you put enough pressure on, you can actually get something, even if it's symbolic. You can get something like him saying this is good for the cause because it's putting more eyeballs on the topic. And yeah, like it would be bad for PR if he said the opposite, and maybe even if he said nothing. So you got to think about this strategically. Like, politicians aren't going to say this shit because they're on your side. They'll say it because there might be ramifications for their career otherwise. Like, it would look bad for Biden to say something bad about this or to not say anything because it's like, this is a big deal. As Biden once said to President, my boss, this is a big fucking deal. So yeah,
Yep.
Keep this in mind.
You know, another thing, like, they are like in a way training the employees on how to organize, because you're not gonna get employers that are this good at suppressing unions. So they're basically training. They're like in the boot camp, the hardest boot camp, the best boot camp on union organizing, and you know.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. This is the belly of the beast. And it's in Alabama, too. Like, Simone pointed that out. It's so weird, isn't it? It's Alabama, of all places. It's like, I don't know how they rank as far as workers' rights go, but probably pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad that I'm not reading the chat closely enough.
It's moving really quick.
Yeah, which is good. That's good for us. Maybe it's a sign that I can pivot away from news reading and react to stuff people are saying there and pull up videos or whatever. Thoughts for the future. We're going to wrap it up here, though, in just a second. Newly appointed NLRB Press Secretary Caleb Lado, who has been tasked with improving the agency's outreach, told BuzzFeed News, working people should understand their rights and be able to act collectively without any coercion or intimidation from any parties. I think that's a pretty good line to end this article read on. I posted it in the chats, so anybody wants to go read it, they can look in the site. Well, it might be gone in the SciTube chat now. You can look at the Twitch chat or the YouTube chat. I'll post it again in the SciTube just for reference. I kind of want to come back and read this again tomorrow and get through the whole thing because it's pretty comprehensive. Maybe even make like just a sit down and record a video of me reading this and upload that because this looks pretty great. So I think that'll be it for the news pretty much. What's this other stuff? Oh yeah, you know what? Let's not read the hate crimes. Things are pretty grim. Let's end on a happy note with Amazon unionizing going pretty well.
There's some happy news in the chat.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Coma made someone in some of his coworkers join a union. And apparently they're up to 70% union participation, and they're trying to reach 90%.
Wait,
that's really good.
Say it again.
They're now up to 70% union participation.
But then you said something after that.
Oh, they're trying to reach 90%. That's what Coma's saying.
Well, if you're already at 70%, 90% doesn't seem like that unreachable of a goal. That's awesome news. Not going to try to like
Yeah.
dox people or anything, talking too much about IRL stuff, but awesome. Everybody else too, like, yeah, never pass up on an opportunity to mention the Amazon stuff going on or talk about like the benefits of unionizing or organizing like your community or whatever. It's incredible how much you can get out of that stuff if you actually just do it and try. Nah, we'll get there. What time do I start tomorrow? I plan normally to start at, like, so far, like around 6 with reading the news. I'd like to start earlier, like 5, and read chat and bullshit and maybe, I don't know, respond to some actually substantive video or something. But currently, the Derek Chauvin trial's happening, and I'm not going to interrupt that. So at the earliest, I'm going to start after that's over. I would recommend you pop in for some of those because that's pretty wild. You don't need to watch the whole thing because, damn, it's a lot. But like the first couple of days were ridiculous with the amount of revelations that happened. Yeah, sometime between 5 and 6 is what I shoot for. If I'm not on then, it's probably either because Chauvin trial's still on or because I was watching that and I need some time to take a little break because that stuff is heavy. But yeah, 5 to 6 Eastern, which would be 21:22 UTC right now. Yeah. Trying to watch. Oh yeah, they're so long. They're like a day's work of content, and they're every weekday. It's ridiculous. It's also hard to watch that stuff in the background of something else because it's fairly technical. But I should start. I'm gonna try to start doing that. Doing streams after that's over. Currently, until it's done. And then I don't know from there. I want to do a charity stream, like a big long-term thing. It's actually super easy to set that up. I discussed this. How much of the Chauvin trials just show? That's hard to say. There's so much evidence making it clear that he murdered Floyd. I mean, I don't know. That's all going to come out, I think, after it's over. We'll see. It's really starting to look like the judge is kind of biased, maybe even like corrupt, the way he was handling some of the witnesses. But we'll see. I can't believe the defense's arguments. Oh yeah. Virgin Mary, you're still on. You can, if you want to like interject and comment. That's another thing. I feel like I'm talking a whole lot when I'm on here. I realize it's my channel and stuff, but I bring people on because I want to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, thanks.
Feel free to, by all means, interject or whatever, or react to stuff people are saying.
Yeah, I've been very disconnected with news, as I said earlier, in general, and this Chauvin trial is just like, like laws and shit is so, it's too much, man.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, whatever comes out of it, like it's not going to change anything. Like the police is still going to be brutal.
Yeah. I think that the big thing is that people are seeing this kind of stuff now, right? That they're, they're seeing how it's a high-profile case where people are seeing what happens when a cop gets charged with, as rare as that is. Oh, you got a call?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you need to hang up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I wouldn't want you to have to like talk while talking on stream publicly, but yeah. I think that it's a big deal for like ideology and for awareness of these problems. Like we saw how big a deal it was when the George Floyd death video circulated, and a lot of people like got something that they didn't get before. I think that similar things are going to happen with the trial. The problem is it's just so long form and drawn out. It won't have the same effect, I don't think. But some of the video that they showed today, the body cams, were just maybe even worse than the original Facebook video that got widely circulated. So
Yeah, it was just disgusting. Just
Yeah.
like someone was mentioning in the chat how like if you treat animals that way, like you would go straight to a psychiatrist or something, like
Yeah.
placed in the loony bin.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, for those who don't know the context, there were 3 body cam videos that extensively showed the encounter between George Floyd and police. And depending on which body camera you were watching, they covered his initial encounter from the first police officer, Lane, I think, either Lane or King, approaching his car with a gun drawn and like pulling him out to arrest him, up to when he died and was taken away in the ambulance, which was like, it was like 10-15 minutes, that range of time. And we saw it from 3 different angles that all showed different information, and they played it in court for the public and for the jury, and we saw George Floyd die again and again and again. It was rough. So I don't know how closely the public is following all of this, but I could definitely see this information, especially if like Chauvin walks. I could see this information kickstarting something again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's at this point, it's like just the tension is already built up, and it would only get like more and more. I don't think the police is able to like regulate itself, and
Yeah.
but from here on like there's going to be like just like more triggers, more people killed by police violence. So it's just like triggers at this point.
Yeah, I feel like now when this kind of thing happens, people are going to have more of an idea of what's going on, even if they don't see it. There's going to be more demands for seeing footage and body cams, things like that. People are going to pay more attention to it, I think. But I think ultimately it's more of like a step in the progression of this as a larger issue. And we're not even at the point yet where people are really connecting like the police force and racism in the police force to capitalism, and to like really getting to like the more foundational core issues there with like terrorizing people who are in poverty to keep them in control. And like having a designated like underclass that's easily color coded and identifiable that you can harass and get away with it as a cop. But
Yeah.
I think we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet.
I mean, like I don't want to like demerit the racism part, but that is like it's obviously related. But like police are being trained in these things, and like they are being militarized.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
primarily to black people, or like disproportionately to black people, but it's like to all people. And like it will come to a point where people will be like, what the, like, why is there military on my streets? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think a good thing to point out here is there's I forget the name of the band, but the song is featuring Ice-T, and the song is No Lives Matter. And there's a line in that song that kind of like spells out the racial connection here, which is that I mean, I forget the exact lyrics that it fits into, but the line is, "Black has always stood for poor." And that's what I mean about like color-coded, is that it's easy to identify somebody and profile them racially and assume that they're like somebody who can't, as the song says, who can't fight back, and somebody who's like poor and part of like this underclass you want to target. It's not just about, I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to psychoanalyze the racism thing, but like, it's not just about race, but race is like a very helpful identifier because poverty is racialized. So if you see somebody who's black, good bet that they're poor, which makes it really easy to target poor people if you do it by like racial profiling. So like that's a sort of mechanical aspect of how that stuff works. But yeah,
like connecting it with the woman, the Salvadorian woman that was killed in Mexico. There was a previous case. Sorry? She's
foreign to Mexico. She's from, you know, El Salvador, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like this is in a backdrop of like extreme violence in Mexico, extreme like police brutality, and especially like to foreigners, people coming from like Honduras, etc., like all these places. It's also like splashes to like Mexicans. There was a case of someone being killed by police for not wearing a face mask. Yeah, it's insane. The police there were protests, and the police repression was also insane. This was around like when George Floyd was like very lively, like it was just starting, like there was a lot of protests. People thought that we were going to see like a similar response to like the senseless killing someone that doesn't have a face mask. Oh, while they were eating, to be specific, they were eating, and that's why the person didn't have a face mask, and they just shot him, literally, like put them in the police car and just shot him.
God.
But the citizen response was very mild. Like it was, yeah, like very lackluster. So what I want to connect this with is like, it's like a slow boiling, it's like a slow kind of thing. Like it's frogs in a pot that don't know they're being boiled.
Right.
And then we get triggers like George Floyd or this other thing, and then the frogs start getting agitated.
Yeah, it's dialectical, right? Like it's a transformation from quantity into quality. The aggression and the repression of people is slowly being dialed up incrementally in a quantitative way, step by step. And at a certain point, there's an inflection, and something happens that changes the tenor of the situation, and now it's a qualitative change. Sorry, I just had to bring that in, but
yep, true.
It's the material progression of history, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost 9:45 in.
Yeah, I don't want to drag this on any further.
Yeah. No,
Thank you for having me on.
I feel like it was a good talk. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Love to have you and Simone were great. Love to have you back on. Love to have other members of the chat on if they are interested. I found this very, very helpful for like A, reading the news, and B, providing context for things I don't know about. So that's great. See you, Coma.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we'll call it quits for tonight, unless anybody has a burning thing in the chat to ask. Nice stream, thanks. Of course, it was a great stream. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna keep doing this. I want to expand this and make this more of like a leftypol project. I don't want this to be just me. I'd like this to be what Haas was kind of suggesting he would be doing with infrared, bringing people on to talk about stuff, but then ended up being debate bro stuff. I fucking hate debates. I love discussions though. Gorillas and Sons. Yeah, maybe we could find something that's our version of that. Whenever somebody like starts memeing at me, I'll latch onto it. Thank you. Yeah. Good night. Good night, all. It seems like everybody's happy to go to bed. So.
Good night.
Good night.
See you guys.
All right.
See you, comrades.
I'll end the call, and then there we go. And that'll be the end for me. I'll just play us out with a little fun little clip that I like.
That's all, folks.